Facing several lawsuits for blocking people on Twitter, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has caved and unblocked at least one individual, Dove Hickend, who I believe, I may be pronouncing your name wrong, but this individual sued AOC for blocking him on Twitter. Recently, due to a lawsuit against Trump, it was determined public officials cannot block people on Twitter. Such a weird and specific ruling, but it basically functions like this. When you tweet, you're creating a space for people to comment. By blocking someone, you are preventing their free speech. Because you're an elected official, you can't do it. The ruling first hit Trump, but was then pointed to AOC. She was supposed to testify yesterday, but because she gave in and unblocked Dove, she has now avoided that. That's my understanding. So here's what I want to do. There's still a lot more to the story. Joey Salads, for one, is still suing her, as well as some other individuals who she has blocked. I believe, I don't know who is suing, but I know Joey is. We'll see what happens, but she does have many more people blocked. And I believe this is a way for her to bypass the court case, which would have forced her to unblock everyone. So while she's lost the battle, the war is still on. The story from Axios. AOC settles lawsuit and apologizes for blocking critic on Twitter. They report, AOC apologized for blocking the Twitter account of a former Brooklyn assemblyman as she agreed to settle a First Amendment lawsuit, the New York Times reports. Why it matters? Per the New York Daily News, Ocasio-Cortez was scheduled to testify in Brooklyn federal court Tuesday in the case brought by Dove Hickend in July, days after a federal appeals court made a landmark ruling that President Trump violated the Constitution in blocking critics on Twitter. I would like to stress, I assure you, the founding fathers never expected this. Like, they have no idea that this is where we would end up. I'm not saying they're right or wrong. I'm just saying, could you imagine the founding fathers being like, freedom of speech shall not be infringed? And then the government being and thinking, and this goes for electronic near speed of light communication services and microblogging platforms, that you will not be about to block people. Probably never saw this coming. But this is why I think the First Amendment in the Constitution is so great. Because we apply it as technology advances and we make it make sense. Now, I think this ruling is kind of weird for the most part because Twitter is a private company. But, you know what, far be it from me. We'll leave this one to the courts because they've apparently upheld it over and over again. Let's continue. The ruling set a precedent that any elected official from a local mayor to the president who blocks a constituent on Twitter, no, not just a constituent, could be found guilty of violating that constituent's First Amendment rights. I believe that's actually wrong, but let's read it. This is AOC's announcement. I have reconsidered my decision to block Dove Hickend from my Twitter account. Mr. Hickend has a First Amendment right to express his views and should not be blocked for them. In retrospect, it was wrong and improper and does not reflect the values I cherish. I sincerely apologize for blocking Mr. Hickend. Now, I could be wrong, but I think this means an elected official can't block literally anybody. Because what does it matter if you live in the area or not, if you're a constituent or not? We're American citizens. American citizens have a First Amendment right that people acting within the as an employee or representative of the government can't. Actually, let me stop. Put it this way. Imagine if a local police force from a town, from 3 towns over, came to your house and shut down your protest. They can't do that. So this is interesting because I'd imagine AOC can't block any of these people. What he's saying, Hickend said on Twitter, the outcome was a great victory not only for me, but for citizens and free speech everywhere. They go on to say, Ocasio-Cortez tweeted in August that she had blocked fewer than 20 Twitter accounts for ongoing harassment. That's a lie. She blocked people for tweeting at her that she was wrong. Like, Joey Salads was not harassing Ocasio-Cortez. Joey Salads, you don't gotta like the guy. I always say this about people because I know invariably the left is gonna be like, Tim's defending Joey. Stop. Joey's running for Congress. He was arguing with AOC, who is in Congress, and she blocked him for it. That's not harassment, okay? Politicians saying you're wrong is not harassing you. Well, Joey's not a politician yet, but he's running to be one. They say, YouTuber and New York 11 Republican congressional candidate Joey Saladino tweeted in July that he had also filed a suit against the freshman lawmaker after she blocked him. He tweeted on Monday, hopefully this means she must unblock me as well. Unfortunately for me, I had several lawyers who had to drop out of my lawsuit due to the extreme controversial nature. Now here's the thing. She won't have to do anything. I'm curious as to why the suit ended. And I guess because Mr. Hickend doesn't have jurisdiction beyond his own account. By settling with him, she actually protected her ability to block other people, sort of. I'm actually really disgusted by this. And this is one of the biggest criticisms I'll give to AOC. Look, you can talk about policy all day and night. I can argue that the Green New Deal makes no sense and all that stuff. That's fine, though. Okay? We're talking about policy issues. We're going to end up with disagreements. This is an issue where AOC is defying a court precedent, period. She is in violation of the Constitution by blocking Joey Salads and others. She is violating the First Amendment rights as per the courts, and this is a cheap shot to get around what she would have to do, which would be unblocking everybody else. So check this out. Here's the tweet from Dove. He says, "Today was a great victory, not only for me, but for citizens and free speech everywhere. However, the fight against anti-Semitism and its apologists continues, and we need your help to achieve more such victories." He goes on to ask people to donate. In this, he expresses, I know it'd be better if I could play the whole thing, but it's YouTube. He basically says that when AOC compared the border and the detention centers to World War II Germany, it was greatly offensive. And it's an apology, essentially. I guess is what he's kind of implying. I don't want to, quote him. But it's kind of a defense for, what, you can't compare what happened in World War II Germany to what's happening on the border. It is just absolutely ridiculous to compare people willfully coming to the U.S., knowing this place exists, and having half the country complain about it versus what Germany did, okay? There's just no comparison, right? So I completely agree with him, and I believe AOC was wrong for doing what she did, and that's why she blocked him, apparently. But he does go on to say, "I want to add that we're still waiting for AOC to do the right thing and unblock the others she's blocked, especially journalists, Liz Wheeler, Real Saavedra, and the Harry Cherry, among others. There can be no double standard. Bravo." I completely agree. Don't care about left, don't care about right. That's not the point. Trump has to unblock people. I heard that it's hard to know who's which source is going to be right. I've heard Trump has unblocked everybody. I've heard he hasn't unblocked everybody. But Trump needs to unblock everybody. You want to take it up with the courts? You do. Okay? But for the time being, the precedent is set. Unblock people. You're public officials and you're accountable to the people. And if someone wants to tell you you're dumb, they're allowed to. It's what makes America great. You know what I really, really love about this country? Is that I can walk up to AOC or Trump and I can give them the middle finger. Technically, like, you can't get in the face of somebody. They have security details. But I can tell them to go screw themselves. There you go. You can't arrest me. America's great, isn't it? Because there are countries where you can. So no, I understand Twitter. It's silly. But you cannot block me. I have a right to tell you whatever I want. Granted, it's a little hyperbolic. You can't incite. We know the rules. There are limits to expression. But this is what AC is complaining about, because I'll tell you what. Technically, based on her view of harassment, people actually do have a right. So let's make one thing clear. Legal harassment is very different from what she calls harassment. If she's complaining that Joey Salads tweets at her, let's do a hypothetical. Let's say somebody tweets at AOC 24 times per day, just every hour, saying you're the stupidest person on the planet. Guess what? Too bad. You're a politician, and Americans are allowed to tell you that to your face. You can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. That goes for Trump or anybody else. I love this country. I get to tell you to go screw it. It's amazing, isn't it? So when they play this game, it's particularly offensive to me. Look, this is a victory in one aspect, but by not going to court, she's not testifying, and that would have been huge, because you would have had them say, "Why are you blocking these people when you know you can't?" So she is in violation of the Constitution. I'll do one last quick shout out too, to a story that I thought was hilarious. Check this one out. The trouble with TikTok. Journalists should not be promoting a platform with a documented history of political censorship. Is this a joke? When I first saw this story from Politico, I actually thought it was kind of a joke, because Facebook straight up said they're banning people based on their politics. That's a fact. We all kind of like shrug for the most part, because we know who they're targeting. But when it comes to expression, I believe you should be allowed to have expression. So let's put it this way, tying this together. What are you complaining about TikTok for? I know they got a problem with censorship, but so does literally everybody else. I get it, though. They're Chinese. Think about it this way. Let's say there's a public forum created by Donald Trump, a physical space, and everybody shows up, but then Trump says, no, not you, you have to leave. And the courts say, Trump, you can't do that. American citizens have a right to a public forum. But then the groundskeeper, the people who own the property, say, we'll kick you out, don't worry. Don't worry, Trump, we got you, and they kick you out. That's acceptable? That is absurd to me, okay? So be it AOC or anyone else, Twitter should not have the right to shut you down. If that's the argument they're making, then a private company superseding precedent and free speech rights? Nah. You know what, man? I understand it's complicated, but think about if Trump decided to only do every event on private space and then guaranteed that no one could ever come and engage in any way. Now I get it. Like that idea actually is how it is. Trump can go to a private building and not allow you in, and they will say it's a private building. The issue is the protesters who show up to these places and protest demand their right to do it. So you can't simultaneously try and go to Trump's private event and yell and then try and defend, AOC or anybody else from blocking people on Twitter or demand that Twitter have access to this. It's kind of a double standard. But I guess the main difference comes from a small private event that happens for only an hour and Twitter, which is literally like town square. I guess it'd be more akin to if the only available space was controlled by a private entity. And that's when regulation comes in to break up the monopoly of it. So I think they're hypocrites. And I think on, where I'm looking at it, it's an issue of, like, where's the red line? If somebody wants to have a private venue event, like, okay, you can't come in. But if someone wants to use literally the only platform for microblogging communication, well, now we've got a serious problem because of the monopoly power of it. In which case, perhaps then we say, you cannot, do this. But I don't know. You see the complicated issue and the nuance here. And that's why I think, I will talk about it a lot. And I'll also add that in public spaces and a lot of events, the protesters show up anyway. So, but I don't know. Let me know what you think. Stick around. I got a couple more segments coming up in a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.